Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and One Night. Now, when it was the 155th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the boatmen rowed towards the other bank till they reached it, and landed, whereupon she took leave of them, saying, It were not my wish to abandon you, but I can go no further. Then she turned back whilst Ali Bin Bakkar lay prostrate on the ground before Abu al-Hasan, and by no manner of means could he rise till his friend said to him, Indeed, this place is not sure, and I fear lest we lose our lives in this very spot by reason of the lewd fellows who infest it, and highwaymen, and men of lawlessness. Upon this, Ali bin Bakkar arose and walked a little, but could not continue walking. Now, Abu al-Hasan had friends in that quarter, so he had made a search for one of them in whom he trusted, and was one of his intimates, and knocked at the door. The man came out quickly, and seeing them, bade them welcome, and brought them into the house, where he seated them, and talked with them, and asked them whence they came. Quoth Abu al-Hasan, We came out but now, being obliged thereto by a person with whom I had dealings, and who hath in his hands dirhams of mine. And it hath reached me that he designed to flee into foreign parts with my moneys. So I fared forth tonight in quest of him, taking with me company this youth, Ali bin Bakkar. But when we came hoping to see the debtor, he hid from us, and we could get no sight of him. Accordingly, we turned back empty-handed without a doit. But it was irksome to us to return home at this hour of the night. So weeting not whether to go, we came to thee, well knowing thy kindness and want courtesy. Ye are welcome, and welcome come, answered the host, and steady to do them honour. So the twain abode with him the rest of the night, and as soon as the daylight dawned, they left him and made their way back into the city without delay. When they came to the house of Abu al-Hasan, he conjured his comrade to enter. So they went in, and lying down on the bed, slept a while. As soon as they awoke, Abu al-Hasan bade his servant spread the house with rich carpets, saying in his mind, Needs must I divert this youth, and distract him from thinking of his affliction, for I know his case better than another. Then he called for water for Ali bin Bakkar, who, when it was brought, rose up from his bed, and making his ablutions, prayed the obligatory prayers, which he had omitted for the past day and night, after which he sat down and began to solace himself by talking with his friend. When Abu al-Hasan saw this, he turned to him and said, O my lord, it were fitter for thy case that thou abide with me this night, so breasts may be broadened, and the distress of love-longing that is upon thee be dispelled, and thou make mercy with us. So happily the fire of thy heart may thus be quenched. Ali replied, O my brother, do what seemeth good to thee, for I may not on any wise escape from what calamity hath befallen me, so act as thou wilt. Accordingly, Abu al-Hasan arose and bade his servants sum up some of his choicest of his friends, and sent for singers and musicians who came, and meanwhile he made ready meat and drink for them. So they sat eating and drinking and making merry through the rest of the day, till nightfall. Then they lit the candles, and the cups of friendship and good fellowship went round amongst them, and the time passed and pleasantly with them. Presently a singer-woman took up the lute, and she began singing, I've been shot by fortune and shaft of eye. Down struck me and parted from fondest friend. Time has proved him foe, and my patience failed. Yet I ever expected it thus would end. When Ali bin Bakkar heard her words, he fell to the earth in a swoon, and ceased not lying in his fainting fit till daybreak. And Abu al-Hasan despaired of him. But when the dawning he came to himself, and sought to go home, nor could his friend hinder him for fear of the issue of his affair. So he made his servants bring a she-mule, and mounting Ali thereon, carried him to his lodgings, he and one of his men. When he was safe at home, Abu al-Hasan thanked Allah for deliverance from that sore peril, and sat a while with him, comforting him. But Ali could not contain himself for the violence of his love and longing. So Abu al-Hasan rose to take leave of him, and returned to his own place. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, When it was the 156th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Abu al-Hasan rose to take leave of him, Ali son of Bakkar exclaimed, 'O my brother, leave me not without news.' 'I hear and obey,' replied the other, and forthwith went away, and repairing to his shop, opened it, and sat there all day, expecting some news from Shams Al-Nahar. But none came. He passed the night in his own house, and when dawned the day, he walked to Ali Bin Bakkar's lodging, and went in and found him thrown on his bed with his friends about him, and physicians about him prescribing something or the other, and the doctors feeling his pulse. When Abu al-Hasan entered, he smiled, and the visitor, after saluting him, inquired how he did, and sat with him till the folk withdrew, when he said to him, 'What plight is this?' Quoth Ali bin Bakkar, 'It was bruited abroad that I was ill, and my comrades heard the report, and I have no strength to rise and walk, so as to give him the lie who knowest abroad my sickness, but continued lying, strown here as thou seest. So my friends came to visit me, say, however, O my brother, hast thou seen the slave girl, or heard any news of her?' He replied, 'I have not seen her since the day we parted from her on the Tigris bank.' And he presently added, 'O my brother, beware thou of scandal, and leave this weeping.' Rejoined Ali, 'O my brother, indeed I have no control over myself.' And he sighed and began reciting, 'She gives her woman's hand a force that fails the hand of me, and with red dye on wrist she guards my patience fail and flee. And for her hand she fears so sore what shafts her eyes discharge. She's fain to clothe and guard her hand with mail ring. The leech in ignorance felt my pulse, the while to him I cried, Sick is my heart, so quit my hand which hath no malady. Quoth she to that fair nightly vision, favoured me and fled. By Allah, picture him not add nor bate in least degrees. Replied the dream, I leave him though he die of thirst. I cry, stand off from water pit, and say why thou persistency. Rained tear pearls her Narcissus eyes, and rose on cheek belit. She made me sherbet, and the lote with bits of hail she bit. And when his recital was ended, he said, O Abu al-Hasan, I am smitten with an affliction from which I am deemed myself in perfect surety, and there is no greater ease for me than death. Replied he, Be patient. Haply Allah will heal thee. Then he went out from him, and repairing to his shop, opened it. Nor had he sat long when suddenly up came the handmaid, who saluted him. He returned her salam, and looking at her saw that her heart was palpitating, and that she was in sore trouble, and showed signs of great affliction. So she said to her, Thou art welcome, and welcome. How is with Shams Al-Nahar? She answered, I will presently tell thee, but first let me know how doth Ali Bin Bakkar. So he told her all that had passed, and how his case stood. Whereat she grieved, and sighed, and lamented, and marvelled at his condition. Then said she, My lady's case is still stranger than this. For when you went away and fared homewards, I turned back, my heart beating hard on your account, and hardly crediting your escape. On entering, I found her laying prostrate in the pavilion, speaking nor answering nor anything, whilst the commander of the faithful sat by her head, not knowing what ailed her, and finding none who could make known to him what her ailment was. She ceased not from her swoon till midnight, when she recovered, and the prince of the faithful said to her, What harm hath become of thee, O Shams Al-Nahar, and what hath befallen thee this night? Now, when she heard the caliph's words, she kissed his feet and said, Allah make me ransom, O prince of true believers. Verily, a sourness of stomach lighted a fire in my body, so that I lost my senses for excess of pain, and I know no more of my condition. Asked the caliph, What hast thou eaten today? And she answered, I broke my fast on something I had never tasted before. Then she feigned to be recovered, and called for something of wine, drank it, and begged the sovereign to resume his diversion. So he sat down again on the couch in the pavilion, and the sitting was resumed. But when she saw me, she answered me how you fared. I told her what I had been done with you both, and repeated to her the verses which Ali Bin Bakkar had composed at parting time, whereat she wept secretly, but presently held her peace. After a while, the commander of the faithful ordered a damsel to sing, and she began reciting. Life has no sweet for me since forth ye fared. Would heaven I wot how fair ye who forsake. 'Twere only fit my eyes were tears of blood, since you are weeping for mine absence sake. But when my lady heard this verse, she fell back on the sofa in a swoon. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 157th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the slave girl continued to Abu al-Hasan. But when my lady heard this verse, she fell back on the sofa in a swoon, and I seized her hand and sprinkled rosewater on her face till she revived, when I said to her, O my lady, expose not thyself, and all thy palace contained, by the life of thy beloved, be thou patient. She replied, Can aught befall me worse than death, when indeed I seek for help by Allah, my ease is therein. Whilst we were thus talking, another damsel said these words of a poet. Quoth they, Maybe that patience lend thee ease. Quoth I, Since fared he, where is patience' place? Covenant he made twixt me and him to cut the cords of patience at our last embrace. As soon as she had finished her verse, Shams Al-Nahar swooned away once more, which when the Caliph saw, he came to her in haste, and commanded the wine to be removed, and each damsel to return to her chamber. He abode with her the rest of the night, and when dawned the day, he sent for chirurgeons and leeches, and bade them medicine her, knowing not that her sickness arose from love and longing. I tarried with her till I deemed her in a way of recovery, and this is what kept me from thee. I great now I have gone with a number of her body women, who were greatly concerned for her, when she bade me go to you and bring her news of Ali Bin Bakkar, and return to her with the tidings. When Abu al-Hasan heard her story, he marveled and said, By Allah, I have acquainted thee with his whole case, so now return to thy mistress, and salute her for me, and diligently exhort her to have patience, and say to her, Keep thy secret, and tell her that I know all her case, which is indeed hard, and one which calleth for nice conduct. She thanked him, and taking leave of him, returned to her mistress. So far concerning her, but as regards Abu al-Hasan, he ceased not to abide in his shop till the end of the day, when he arose and shut it and locked it, and betaking himself to Ali Bin Bakkar's house, knocked at the door. One of the servants came out and admitted him, and when Ali saw him, he smiled and congratulated himself on his coming, saying, O Abu al-Hasan, thou hast desolated me by thine absence this day, for indeed my soul is pledging to thee during the rest of my time. Answered the other, Leave this talk. Were thy healing at the price of my hand, I would cut it off ere thou couldst ask me, and could I ransom thee with my life, I had already laid it down for thee. Now this very day Shams Al-Nahar's handmaid hath been with me, and had told me what hindered her coming ere this was the Caliph's sojourn with her mistress, and she acquainted me with everything which had betided her. And he went on to repeat to him all that the girl had told him of Shams Al-Nahar, at which Ali Bin Bakkar lamented sore, and wept, and said to him, Allah upon thee, O my brother, help me in this affliction, and teach me what course I should take. Moreover, I beg thee of thy grace to abide with me this night, that I may have solace of thy society. Abu al-Hasan agreed to this request, replying that he would readily night there. So they talked together till eventide darkened, when Ali Bin Bakkar groaned aloud and lamented and wept copious tears, reciting these couplets: Thine image in these eyne, a lip thy name, my heart thy home. Lo, couldst thou disappear, how sore I grieve for life which comes to end, nor see I boon of union far and near. And those words came more. She split my casque of courage with eye swords that sorely smite. She pierced my patience ring mail with her shape like Cain's spear light. Patched by the musky mole on cheek was to sight displayed camphor set round with ambergris, light dawning through the night. Her soul was sorrowed, and she bit carnelian stone with pearls, whose unions in a sacred tank ever to lurk unite. Restless, she sighted and smote with pain and palm the snows that clothe her breast, and left a mark whereon I looked and ne'er beheld such a sight. Pens, fashioned of her coral nails, with ambergris for ink, 5 lines on crystal page of breast did cruelly indite. O swordsmen, armed with trusty steel, I bid you all beware, when she on you bends, deadly glance which fascinates the sprite, and guard thyself, O thou of spear, when as she draws near, to tilt with slender quivering shape, like as the nut-brown spear. And when Ali Bin Bakkar ended his verse, he cried out with a great cry, and he fell down in a fit. Abu al-Hasan thought that his soul had fled his body, and he ceased not from his swoon till daybreak, when he came to himself and talked with his friend, who continued to sit with him till forenoon. Then he left him and repaired to his shop, and hardly had he opened it up when, lo, the damsel came and stood by his side. As soon as he saw her, he made a sign of salutation, which he returned, and she delivered to him a greeting message of her mistress, and asked, How doth Ali Bin Bakkar? Answered he, O handmaiden of good, ask me not of his case, nor what he suffereth. For excess of love-longing he sleepeth not by night, neither resteth he by day. Wakefulness wasteth him, and care hath conquered him, and his condition is a consternation to his friend. Quoth she, My lady saluteth thee and him, and she hath written him a letter, for indeed she is in worse case than he. And she entrusted the same to me, saying, Do not return save with the answer, and do thou obey my bidding. Here now is this letter. So say, wilt thou wend with me to him, that we may get his reply? I hear and obey, answered Abu al-Hasan. And locking his shop, and taking with him the girl, he went by a different way, and he came to Ali Bin Bakkar's house, where he left her standing at the door, and walked in. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my say for today, till it be morrow.